It begins with champagne and diamonds on a luxury yacht under the midnight sky. But when a millionaire's rage turns deadly, his pregnant wife plunges into the dark Atlantic. He thinks the ocean will bury his secret forever. But what the sea swallows, it sometimes returns, and this time it brings justice with it. Stay until the end, because what happens next will leave you breathless. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, because this story is about to shake you to your core. Under the golden Mediterranean sun, the superyacht Serenity cut through turquoise waters like a blade through silk. Crystal chandeliers swayed gently as guests in designer gowns sipped Dom Perignon. To the world, it looked like paradise, but paradise was about to shatter. Sophia Lawrence stood near the railing, one hand cradling her 8-month belly, the other shielding her eyes from the glare. The white lace dress her husband Marcus had chosen that morning now felt like a costume for her own funeral. Then she saw them. Marcus Devereux, the shipping magnate the press called the Titan, had his arms wrapped around her sister Isabelle. Their lips met in a kiss meant to wound, meant to be witnessed. Cameras flashed. A drone overhead captured everything. The crowd gasped, but no one moved. Sophia stumbled forward, her heels catching on polished teak. "Marcus," she whispered, her voice breaking. "What are you doing?" He turned, his gray eyes cold as winter sea. "Showing the world who I really belong with." Isabelle laughed, the sound sharp as breaking glass. "You were always too weak for him, Sophia, too soft." Every phone in the crowd rose like flowers turning toward carnage. Sophia felt their gazes cut into her skin. "I'm carrying your child," she breathed. Marcus smiled, cruel, calculated. "A mistake I'm about to correct." The kick came without warning. His Italian leather shoe struck her chest with brutal precision. The sound echoed across the deck, a sickening thud that silenced the music, the laughter, everything. Sophia's body jerked backward, her arms flailed. The railing slammed into her spine, cold and merciless. For one suspended heartbeat, she saw the blue horizon flip upside down. Then she fell. The ocean swallowed her like a closing fist. Cold exploded through her lungs. Salt burned her throat. The taste of blood filled her mouth. She tried to scream, but only bubbles escaped, rising toward light that was already fading. Above, the yacht's engines rumbled on. No one jumped. No one threw a rope. Through the distorted water, she glimpsed silhouettes against the sun. Marcus stood motionless. Beside him, Isabelle held her phone, still recording, still laughing. Sophia's dress tangled around her legs like chains. The weight of her pregnancy pulled her down. Panic surged through her veins. She pressed trembling hands against her belly. "Hold on, baby," she whispered into the void. "Please hold on." The pressure in her chest became fire, her vision blurred. Sunlight fractured into golden shards before dimming to gray. But then a sound, faint, stubborn, defiant, the heartbeat of her child pulsing against her palms. That rhythm cut through the darkness like a lighthouse beam. Her eyes snapped open. The instinct to survive returned with savage force. She clawed toward the fading light above, muscles screaming, lungs burning. Her dress ripped. She broke the surface for one desperate second, gasping. The yacht was already distant, its laughter carried on the wind like ghosts mocking the dead. "Help!" she cried, but the vast horizon swallowed her voice. Her strength faltered. The sky began to fade. Then a shadow moved across the water, a fishing vessel, weathered and blue. She tried to wave, but her arms barely rose. "Here," she whispered, "please." The sea closed over her face one final time. Everything went still. Captain Raphael Torres saw something pale floating between the swells. His heart kicked. He cut the engine, grabbed his net, and pulled with all his strength. When her limp body broke the surface, he dropped to his knees, pressing fingers to her throat. Nothing. "Breathe, damn it," he muttered, pushing hard against her chest. Once, twice. Again, seawater spilled from her lips. Then a gasp, ragged, wet, alive. Her hands moved weakly to her stomach, protecting what mattered most. Raphael felt beneath the soaked fabric. A flutter, faint but unmistakable. "Both alive," he whispered, eyes wide with wonder. He covered her with his fishing jacket and turned the boat toward shore. As the motor roared to life, her eyes fluttered open, unfocused and afraid. "The baby," she whispered. "Still with you," he said gently. Tears filled her eyes, half relief, half disbelief, before she fainted again. 1 year later, New York City. Sophia Laurent no longer existed. In her place lived Sophie Martin, financial analyst. She'd learned to move differently, speak carefully, breathe without drowning. But every night she heard the ocean swallowing her. In her small apartment, her son Marco slept peacefully. She kissed his forehead, then returned to her laptop where months of investigation glowed on the screen. That's when she found it. Buried in a backup cloud folder, a video file timestamped to that terrible day. Her hand trembled as she clicked. Sunlight, champagne, laughter. Then her own scream, sharp and pleading. The camera captured everything: Marcus's kick, her fall, the splash, and in the phone's reflection, Isabel's face, smiling. Sophia covered her mouth, tears streaming. The proof she'd never dreamed existed was sitting on her screen. She saved it to an encrypted drive. This was no longer about money or pride. This was murder. And she had the witness. The evidence went to investigative journalist Alina Cross. Within 48 hours, the video aired on national television during Marcus's annual charity gala. The ballroom screens flickered. Then the footage played, his kick, her scream, Isabel's laughter on loop across every wall. Chaos erupted. Guests screamed. Cameras flashed. Marcus lunged for the technicians. "Turn it off!" But the truth was already viral. Alina's voice cut through the broadcast. "This authenticated footage shows billionaire Marcus Devereaux attacking his pregnant wife 1 year ago. He declared her missing. The world believed she drowned, but the sea doesn't always keep its dead." Within hours, police arrived. Isabel fled but was arrested at the airport. Marcus was taken in handcuffs, shouting denials that no one believed. 3 months later, the courtroom was silent as the judge delivered sentence. "Marcus Devereaux, you are sentenced to 35 years in federal prison without parole. Isabel Laurent, you receive 12 years for complicity and obstruction." The gavel struck. Justice delivered. Morning sunlight spilled across the quiet harbor. Sophia walked along the wooden pier, her son's hand in hers. The sea reflected light back to her like an old friend who'd finally forgiven her for surviving. Captain Raphael stood at the pier's end, holding wildflowers wrapped clumsily in paper. "You taught me the tide waits for no one," she said, smiling. "Yet here you are," he replied, still standing against it. She handed him an envelope. "For your foundation for families of lost sailors." He accepted it, voice thick with emotion. "You already saved yourself, Sophia, thank you." She looked out at the endless water, the same ocean that had tried to claim her. Now it shimmered with promise instead of threat. Behind her, a sign hung above a small cafe, Grace and Tide's Foundation, founded by Sophia Laurent. She lifted her son into her arms, whispering, "The sea gave us back Marco, now we give back to the world." The waves rolled gently. The sun climbed higher. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the tide turned toward morning. If this story moved you, if you believe that truth always rises and justice always finds its way, drop her in the comments. Share this with someone who needs to hear that survivors become warriors, that the ocean may test us, but it cannot break us. Every like helps stories like Sophia's reach someone fighting their own storm. Subscribe, because next week we're bringing you another story of courage that will remind you, no matter how deep you sink, you can always rise again. Where are you watching from? Tell us below. You're part of this journey now.